don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason.
Hello and welcome to Warpath Crossover Pod. My name's @JDon'tFade, Jason Malloy. Give me a follow on Twitter. Give us a follow on Twitter. We do have, and I want to first start off by announcing we do have the Warpath Crossover Podcast Twitter account up and running now as the season goes on, or well, I guess as the season starts. Once the season gets started, we will go ahead and get just some more content out there for you. Probably some short videos will be released on Twitter, probably exclusive to Twitter until we get the Instagram up and running, of course. I myself will be doing 2 more shows throughout the year, which is exciting. Some more great content for the Mafia Sports Report. We're going to be having a Bill show. I do have season tickets, as I announced in the last show or the show before. So we'll be doing some tailgate talk with the fans, Bill's Mafia, seeing what they're feeling about the games. Probably give some betting picks there. As you know, I like to bet a lot, hence the name @JDon'tFade, as well as a baseball podcast, which I'm excited to do because baseball is probably my true love, I'd say, of sports is baseball. Football being a very close second, and hockey being there as a close third. They're pretty much tied there. I love hockey, especially being in Buffalo, of course, and being born and bred here, which kind of brings us to our first topic, and that's Ryan Miller. He's going to the rafters. You heard it here, well, probably not first, but you heard it here in general, and that is Ryan Miller is going to the rafters as a Buffalo Sabre. His number 30 is going to be retired into the rafters January 19th. I'm not sure we're taking on that day. I'm sure that the opponent will probably take into play whoever that is. I don't even know the schedule, not to be honest with you yet. It's been really tough to follow hockey. Every true hockey fan knows there's a big lull in the off season. That is now where there's truly really nothing going on. Free agency is kind of tempered down. The draft picks have gotten settled in. Rookie camp has already started. We've, of course, got the great challenge, the Prospects Challenge coming up in just a few weeks here, I believe, but really nothing going on. But nonetheless, we'll give you some content. Like I said, Ryan Miller going to the rafters, number 30. He was probably the most polarizing Sabre, I'd say, of my lifetime thus far. Of course, I'm only 26, but guys that are older than me, they have Dominic Hasek, Pat LaFontaine, even some of the older guys, Gilbert Perreault, the French Connection, all greats, all Hockey Hall of Famers. I also think Ryan Miller's a Hockey Hall of Famer. Probably one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, American-born goalie that we've ever seen. Definitely the best Sabres goalie, in my opinion. Some will say Dominic Hasek, maybe based on skill and talent, but what Ryan Miller did for this community and as the most polarizing and really that true Sabre for such a long period of time, in my opinion, he's the best Sabres goalie of all time. And that kind of starts at the stats. And you got to look exactly what attributes he holds from being here, right? So in 796 games career, that's career games, not just with the Sabres, he posted a .391, .289, .88 record. 2.63 goals against average, 0.914 save percentage, and 44 shutouts. 44 shutouts. Shutouts are really hard to get. So nowadays, especially in the age of social media and everything being online and no more newspapers, you see a shutout. Even if you had the newspaper, you see a shutout that's like a big highlight, like a big deal. The crowd goes crazy, right? Because shutouts are not easy to get. He had 44 of them over his career. Let's take a peek at some of the stats just as a Sabre, right? So I remember he was born and bred, right? He's from not born and bred from Buffalo, but born and bred through the organization, came through the Rochester Americans organization, and then up through to on the farm, of course, and then up through to Buffalo, replacing, really kind of competing at first with Marty Braun, but then eventually replacing Marty Braun. He placed 8th in and I'll just go through the where he placed and ranked in some of these, of course. He placed 8th in the Calder Trophy his first year, and that was when he had a 30-14 record. Very impressive. 21st in the Hart. Next year, 20th in the Hart, 6th in the Vezina. A little bit of a lull the next year. He definitely had some good numbers. He had wins, 36 and 27. Goals against was 197.906, so a little bit lower in the save percentage, but 2.64 in the goals against. That's an 07-08 when the Sabres are really clicking. They're really trucking, trying to get to the playoffs, trying to do well in the playoffs, even just after those, a couple years after or a year after that really hard loss that we took there in the finals, I believe, to Carolina. Ugh, rough. Next year, 20th in the Bing. Next year after that, he was an all-star that year in 09-10. He went 41 and 18 with a .929 save percentage, 2.22 goals against. That's insane. Placed 18th in the Bing, 4th in the Hart, and he did win the Vezina that year. He is a Vezina winning goalie. Nothing to smear your hat at. That's a very big accomplishment. He finished 18th in the Bing that year, 4th in the Hart, 1st in the Vezina. Year after that, another year. He's just come up short in the All-Star games, it looks like, but 26 in the Hart. And then after that, he had another 2 years. Well, technically 1.5 years. He had another year in Buffalo. Stats started doing a little bit. The team starts to get a little bit worse at the beginning of the drought. It's going 17 and 17, .915 saves. So the save percentage still isn't terrible. 2.81 goals against. Kent, that's nothing bad. We're used to having guys here and that, probably 3 and 4 guys, which is awful, but still good, right? With a rebuilding team at this point, it's 2011, 2012. And they get to 2012, 2013, and that was the last year for Ryan Miller in a Buffalo Sabres uniform. I'm sorry. Yes, that's as I said, 2013, 2014. For Buffalo that year, he had 15 wins, 22 L's. He then was traded to St. Louis. He had 10 wins, 8 L's. In St. Louis, didn't do much better, I guess you'd say, than in Buffalo. He had a .923 save percentage in Buffalo that year and a 2.72 goals against. In St. Louis, .903, essentially a .9 save percentage, so 1 in every 10, and a 2.47 goals against. Still not bad, though, right? And then after that, he signs, of course, with Vancouver. Goes 29 and 15 his first year, .911 save percentage, 2.53 goals against average, which is, of course, still great. That's still very good. Goalies like that have won the cup before. I think that's more than enough. You've got a competent offense and a good defense and a good game plan. Go to the next year, gets a little bit rougher, okay, in Vancouver. 17-24, .916 save percentage, 2.7, which at that time was very near his highest yet. I don't include the 2003-2004 season. He only played 3 games. And if you look at anything else other than that, he had 2.73 in the rookie year, but still, again, .911 save percentage. So one of the higher marks, you can see people think, is he declining? He's 35 years old. He's starting to decline. Next year, more of the same, unfortunately. 18-29, he had a .914 save percentage and a 2.8. So now he's at his highest. That's the highest he's ever had for his goals against average, almost 3, right? Nearing 3, which, I would take that now in a heartbeat, of course, in Buffalo. But then the next year, of course, right? So next year, he goes to Anaheim. He's 12 and 6. He's more in a backup role at this point. So he's 12 and 6, .928 save percentage, 2.35 marks. So that's like some of the best marks he's posted in his career right there. The .914, or not the .914, but the 2. I'm sorry, where was I? I lost my place again here. .928 actually was one of the best. Actually, I think that might have been the best. Of course, he's in a backup role, so those games, but yes, that is the best save percentage. It's by quite a bit, by almost a whole point, almost a whole hundredth, really. And then you look at 2.35, very low. Again, career lows. That's his career low there for goals against average. So that's a hell of a season he had as a backup. At that point, it's like, okay, he's still got it. He just can't play all the games he was playing before. Next year, he goes 8 and 7. Then rather than just skipping here, he has finished his career out in Anaheim, 8 and 7. 2019-20. He goes 9 and 6, and then the last year, 2020-21, 4 and 8. I was one of the camp that would love to sign him at the age of 40 if he was willing to come back, because it had to be better than what we had, or what we even, honestly, more than what we have. I'm not impressed with the Eric Comrie and what else we got going on there. I can't imagine they're the future, but we've got UPL and some younger guys, of course. I don't know if any of those guys we traded for are going to sign. Hopefully, at least snag Levi. I don't know that Portillo's coming here. I don't think Portillo is coming here. Whatever can be said by fans, it's not going to convince me. It's not going to change my opinion. If he was going to sign, he would have signed. The job is his in Rochester right now, and he's refusing to sign. He wants to go back again. So nothing to be said there. Hopefully we can pick up Levi, though. But yeah, just to talk a little bit about Ryan Miller. Thomas Vanek is probably my favorite Sabre of all time, I'd have to say, but Ryan Miller is a very close second. The things this man did as far as putting Buffalo back on the map after really another terrible early 2000s period, preceding the good years, right, in the Stanley Cup, and of course losing the Stanley Cup, but the Stanley Cup in general being in Buffalo and almost awarded to the Sabres. And then you've got the early 2000s, which are rough, and you got lockdowns and lockouts, I'm sorry, and just it was very rough. But Ryan Miller was a star. I mean, he was a bona fide star. And just things he did in the community and just he's a Sabre. He's a true Sabre at the end of the day. There were some reasons he wanted to move out to, I believe, go to Anaheim after Vancouver. Because, of course, anytime Miller was available, like that's mentioned, he's available via trade or via free agency, the Sabres were always wanted because we just want to get rid of him, right? We don't want to get rid of him in the first place. We don't want to not be able to get him back, right? So just an amazing guy. He led the American team in the Olympics almost to the gold medal. Loss, I believe it was shitty Sidney Crosby that scored the goal for Canada, took the gold medal away from us, but a great gold medal, or I'm sorry, a great Olympic performance by Ryan Miller, who would be in at the time, I don't know if you know, but in his future home, well, of course you didn't know, but in his future home in Vancouver, at the Olympics there. That was back when hockey in the Olympics was like fucking, excuse my language, fucking awesome. Like seriously, like you had the NHL players in there, the best players from Europe. You had all the best players in the world. It's like baseball, right? So like, and not to get off topic here, but it's like baseball where like baseball when it had the World Baseball Classic or it had baseball player MLB players in the Olympics, like that was awesome because you had the best players from every country. And it's not like, oh, you would think like, oh, in hockey, Canada's just better. No, yeah, Canada is good, but US is good, right? Like Russia is good. Russia's got Ovi, right? The Czech Republic is decent. Like you've got teams where these European teams come from. You're now there are guys that come from Europe early on in their life, and then they come over to America and they represent America because they've been in America for most of their life. But a lot of the guys will go back and they represent their homes because a lot of them still live there realistically. Like I believe Rasmus Dahlin lives here, of course, but I think he has a place over in Sweden still. Like I imagine a lot of guys still do. I'm not sure about Russia. That's maybe a little bit different, of course, with the government over there. But same, I don't know of any great alumnus NHL players from North Korea, but I'm sure they wouldn't be going back there anytime soon. And similar with Cuba with the Olympics, of course, in baseball. But I'd love to see the NHL players go back, and not to get off on a tangent here, but I just love to see them. And it was supposed to happen, and it never did this year, which really sucks. They're saying baseball is going to have the baseball players will eventually have them back in the Olympics, or at least doing the World Baseball Classic. It's just the atmosphere when you know you're not only fighting for maybe like that team's like that player's team that they're on, the fan base is fighting for them, but like you're fighting for an entire country in a competition. And Ryan Miller embodied what it means to be an Olympian, in my opinion. I want to say I'm going to get it wrong. I know I am, but I'm going to say it. 2012 or 2010. It was one of those 2 years. But Miller led us to a silver medal, right? And it could have been a gold, but just Sidney Crosby being who Sidney Crosby is and just being amazing, just unfortunately scored the goal that broke the camel's back, if that makes sense, I guess. I don't know that goals are breaking camel's backs these days, but either way. Well, it's enough on Ryan Miller. I will definitely be at that game, and I do plan on giving some coverage at that game if we can do something live, maybe, even if I can. I don't want to get taken off of YouTube or anything, but get the live ceremony maybe and some reactions and from fans, because I'm going to be doing tailgate talk, like I said, for the Bills and Bills Mafia, maybe for Sabre Nation. And our Warpath fans, we can get some live reaction to what Miller meant to the community, because I know as a kid growing up, he was Superman, truly. So I want to take a look at, just before we end up here, like I said, episodes are going to be a little bit shorter, 15, 20 minutes in the off season. Once we get into really the dirt, and even when we get into like even just preseason, we have something to talk about. You know, right now it's just I think the Sabres are still just starting to kind of get their legs back under them and kind of get back into shape and finish off their vacations and get ready for another long, grueling hockey season. Hockey's if you think about it, right? So like, again, not to get off on a tangent, before we talk about GM Kevin Adams' comments real quick. Like, hockey is a tough sport. Like, you've got football, right? But you've got 17 games now. You've got 17 games, and then you've got playoffs. So let's say at most you're playing, 20 to 21 games? Stars don't really play the preseason much, other than maybe a series or two, or maybe just a quarter at most. I don't know that Josh Allen's going to see a snap in the preseason, which I am against, but I'll talk about that more in tailgate talk. But yeah, hockey is 82 games. Baseball's 162. it's tough. I mean, they're taking hits. I have ice skated plenty of times in my life, especially as a kid playing a little bit of hockey, and like it's grueling. Like your legs are jello at the end of it. Like it's similar. Your legs at the end of a hockey game, at least for me, felt like my arm felt after I would pitch, 80, 85 pitches in high school or something like that, or in a really like in travel teams or tournament teams, like all-star teams, right? Like your arm is just jello, and that's how your legs feel. And they do that like 2 or 3 nights a week, sometimes 4 nights a week. So like it's a lot, It's a grueling schedule. Either way, GM Kevin Adams comments here. I just want to note that a couple that I had seen from an article. When did this article come out? I just picked it up. August 11th, the article came out, and these comments are just from the off season in general. But I wanted to read a couple comments. One of them that I noticed was from Kevin Adams. He said, "We're not in a spot." Actually, I'll start even here. We're not going to be in a spot where we're going to rush anyone. We're going to let these guys develop. And if you look at some of the comments from Granato and Darlene and just some of the guys, this is the general sense you're getting. There is no, and this is from Rasmus Dahlin, I believe. There is no rush. There will be growing pains. He was speaking, not out of context. He was speaking in regards to Owen Power, 19-year-old defenseman. A couple got a bunch of young guys, actually. But take a look. Let's see here. Jeff Skinner talking about being a really good teacher. So, and then he says the talent base keeps being added to, and it's exciting to see these young guys get better and better and better. And it's just like the general sense you're getting. Like, here's another one from Kevin Adams. You need patience. You need to be able to really be honest and self-evaluate and reflect, but you need to have patience because things don't happen overnight. And I'll be honest with you, and this is for most fans, is it unfair to say that, no, Kevin Adams, like, you need to try and get better now, you need to do this now, you need to, like, we want to be in the playoffs, like, it's not fair, and tell Kevin Adams, well, we haven't had playoffs for the last 10 years, so we want it now. Is it fair? No. But can it be said? Yeah, it certainly can be said, and no one should be mad at anybody for saying it. Because, you know what, maybe that's how I want to phrase it then. Is it realistic? No. Is it fair? Yes, it is fair to say that. It's fair to have aggression and anger and sorrow and hurt from 10 plus years now, a decade plus of no playoff hockey in Buffalo, and to see really the organization saying, hey, we've got these young guys, we keep drafting these young guys, we're going to let them build, and knowing that Sabres, not even Sabres players, NHL players take 3 to 4 years to develop, even the top talents. Look at Rasmus Dahlin. He still has things he has to work on, and people still say he's going to get there. He's young, right? Well, Rasmus Dahlin has been the young guy to those fans for 3 years now. He has 3 or 4 years now in the NHL, playing in the NHL game. Age doesn't matter at that point. It's the same thing people say with Tremaine Edmonds in football. Well, he's young. Okay, well, he's been playing for 3 or 4 years now. Okay, and naturally you're going to pick it up. These guys are the uber athletes, right? They're far ahead of their skill level, their age level, compared to people that are their same age or in the age or bracket or whatnot. Yes, they're getting better, but like, can we really wait 3 or 4 more years, guys, for guys like that, for any of the young guys, for guys like Jack Quinn, JJ Paterka, Owen Power, for guys like that to get better? Or are we going to add talent around them? Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the hockey season. I am, but I'm not excited to see us go up 4 to 6 points. I need to see a jump. I need to see 10 to 12 points. I want to see 5 or 6 more wins in the win column, maybe even more. If we can get to maybe, I think 6 to 8. I think 6 to 8 wins is probably predictable, just based on like talent progression from the younger guys and from really everybody, and like some of those little moves we made, like with Eric Comrie, maybe he snags another game or two. Labushkin adds a little bit for that right-hand defenseman that we need. So maybe that wins us another game too. Maybe there's not a breakaway that happens and leads to a goal that ends, in the last couple minutes of the game, and we sneak a couple more wins out. But I think 6 to 8 is realistic to expect for any rebuilding team. You should be adding at least 6 to 8 wins every year. It's an 82 game season. You're not asking for much. That's the 6 to, and to put it this way, I'm not projecting playoffs for the Sabres. 6 to 8 wins is just getting us halfway there to the playoffs, right? So that maybe the next year you can shoot for another 6 to 8 wins and maybe finish right there. Like, you just sneak a playoff spot if you get good, or you just fall out of it. And then the year after, right? So the third year we're in the playoffs. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We've made moves over the last 2 years in free agency and trades and blah, 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 blah. And just the prospects have gotten better, and we're in the playoffs. Because if in year 3, at this point, year 4 or 5 of a rebuild at that point, Kevin Adams is in the playoffs, we need to be looking for someone new. Honestly, I think that realistically after this year, next year, the year, and it's not this coming year, but the year after, next year, we should be, year after this year, being the next year, we should be shooting for the playoffs. And if we're not, I think GM Kevin Adams has to be assessed at that point. Same with Don Granato, right? Like, You need to be getting better. It's not acceptable, okay, to tank or to, at this point, right? I mean, you've tanked a number of times and you've done it right a couple of times. So, like, it should not be happening anymore. But, like, it's not acceptable to tank and not use the money that you have in a salary cap league. It's a salary cap league. You share revenue. On top of that, you can't roll the cap over, so you're doing nothing with it. You're fighting to get the cap floor to do nothing. Take that $30 million and throw it back to wherever. It's not doing anything for you. So, like, realistically, I want to see this team getting better next year. I've given them this year as a mulligan, and I want to see the talent get better this year. But I want to see it actually get better. There should be no more streaks where we're losing games by 3 or 4 goals randomly, and then we have that one good game. That should not be happening. It should be competitive hockey every single night. And if you have the occasional blowout, you do. But competitive hockey where you're losing by a goal or two, you're losing in overtime, or you're winning. I can take that 40 win percentage or 50 win percentage. I can take that. Anything less than that is just not acceptable. I'm sorry at that point. But like I said, the year after this coming year, the year after next, I guess you could say, I want to be shooting for the playoffs. I want to see real moves made in free agency. I want to see real trades if the trades are the way that they're going to go about doing this to get better. And that is my soapbox for the Sabres and Gmka talk there. So either way, that's all we've got here. We're finishing up with 21-minute video here. Any comments that you guys have, of course, give us a follow at jdon'tfave, myself personally, at Warpath Crossover Pod. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Mafia Sports Report, if you can. We will be doing going live during the season, of course, and even leading up to the season, some of the preseason games. At that point, we can do super chats. We can get into kind of covering some topics that you guys want to cover, having discussions, of course. Leave some comments here. Leave some thoughts and feelings in the podcast in the comments. Anything that you guys have to say as far as topics you want me to cover, anything in the next over the next couple of weeks while we really don't have much going on. We're in that lull of hockey. Even if you want to talk historic Sabres, do some fun trivia games, fun ranking games, drafts, fantasy drafts, anything like that, I'm down for it. Whatever. I want to give you guys what you want, and we're going to try our best to do that. But for now, that's all I've got. Thank you for watching the Warpath Crossover Pod. My name's @JDon'tFade. You have yourself a lovely night. Sabres on the Warpath. Let's go.
Stars,